Once upon a time, there was a poor woodcutter who lived with his wife and 2 children, Hansel and Gretel. They were so poor that the woodcutter could barely afford to feed his family. One day, the woodcutter's wife told him that they would have to abandon the children in the forest because they could no longer afford to feed them. The woodcutter was reluctant, but he eventually agreed. That night, the woodcutter took Hansel and Gretel into the forest and left them there. Hansel, however, had overheard his parents' plan, so he had dropped a trail of breadcrumbs behind them as they walked. The next morning, the woodcutter and his wife followed the trail back to their home, unaware that Hansel had tricked them. Hansel and Gretel were left alone in the forest, and they soon realized that they were lost. They wandered around for days, trying to find their way back home. Eventually, they came to a clearing, and in the middle of the clearing was a small house made of gingerbread and candy. Hansel and Gretel were so hungry that they started to eat the house. Suddenly, the door of the house opened, and a witch stepped out. The witch was very friendly at first, and she invited Hansel and Gretel inside. However, the witch had a secret plan. She wanted to fatten Hansel up so that she could eat him. The witch locked Hansel in a cage and gave Gretel all the food she could eat. Every day, the witch would come to the cage and check on Hansel. She would say, "Little boy, why are you so thin? Are you not eating my good food?" Hansel was clever, though. He had tricked the witch by dropping a trail of pebbles behind him as he walked around the cage. The pebbles led back to the forest, and Hansel's father was able to follow them and rescue Hansel and Gretel. The witch was furious when she saw that Hansel had escaped. She chased after Hansel and Gretel, but they were able to outrun her. They ran to the edge of the forest, and they saw their father waiting for them. They were so happy to be reunited with their father, and they all lived happily ever after. The moral of the story is that good will always triumph over evil. Hansel and Gretel were able to outsmart the witch and escape, thanks to Hansel's cleverness. The story also teaches us that we should not trust strangers, even if they seem friendly. The witch seemed kind at first, but she was really just a wicked creature who wanted to eat Hansel. Hansel and Gretel is a classic fairy tale that has been enjoyed by people of all ages for centuries. It is a story of good versus evil, of courage and perseverance, and of the power of love.